A bounce up into the 80s is expected over the next couple of days before thunderstorms, and then a bounce back down into the 40s. Time is 6:19 p.m. and it is April 18th. Welcome to another update from Great Lakes Weather. Hopefully everybody is doing well today. In this video, we're going to be talking about the upcoming forecast for warmer weather over the next couple of days, as well as the potential for some thunderstorms Thursday afternoon before cool down comes back again. This is a shot of a beautiful sunset I captured Friday evening last week when the weather was absolutely gorgeous and we had the opportunity to see a really nice sunset out there. And it's going to warm up again over the next couple of days, and then Thursday afternoon into Thursday evening we will start to see the return of maybe some thunderstorms. So let's get right to it with what the SPC is talking about with regards to severe weather coming our way. This is the current outlook for Thursday. Okay, it's a day 3 severe thunderstorm outlook from the SPC. You have a marginal risk for severe thunderstorms across western Indiana, southwestern Michigan, and then the threat of thunderstorms pretty much spans all across much of the Great Lakes region, including Indiana and Ohio. But the real thing with this setup is that the instability is going to be pretty low. We do have that lifting mechanism that's going to be the cold front that's going to be moving through, bringing in some spin in the atmosphere, but you don't really have the instability in place to foster a stronger severe thunderstorm event across the area. That might change later on with the models, but again, that is what is currently being projected by the SPC. Lack of instability is one thing that's going to be an issue with this setup. So we do have the potential of seeing some stronger storms capable of producing damaging wind gusts, but I think that's pretty much the extent of the severe threat as it stands right now. So let's take a look at the models to see how they compare with this setup. I'm trying to see why my mouse pointer isn't showing up. There we go. All right, so let's go to our next graphic here. This is the GFS model. Okay, so this is pivotal weather. Again, this information is open to you, available to you for access as well. But here you have the current setup of the weather Tuesday evening as of right now. At about 7 p.m. you have some rainfall in northern Missouri. You may notice that this does begin to move in from the west. It may bring some warm front thunderstorms into parts of northern Michigan, and you get a sounding out there. It doesn't really show the setup for thunderstorms, but you do see that there will be some rainfall, maybe even a couple pockets of snow here and there across parts of the upper peninsula of Michigan, very light pockets before it begins to really show a transition to rain. Then you see this low pressure moving into parts of the plains towards the Mississippi River Valley, and you do notice that there's some convective development ahead of it, maybe some initial rain showers early in the morning on Thursday before the warm front finally lifts off to the north. But then you notice kind of a frontal setup here associated with this low, and on the backside you notice that colder air, and again, yes, once again you have that snow showing up in parts of Minnesota. So that frontal boundary is going to move through, and it looks like there could be a little bit of convective initiation out but prior to sunset with this setup. Now, the current models for the GFS do not really show a severe setup, though there is directional and speed shear in play, but the instability, once again, as projected by the SPC, the instability is only at 11. Very low amounts of instability. Your storm relativity is not terribly high either, but you do have a little bit of low-level wind shear that is going to contribute to maybe some thunderstorms across parts of Michigan. Indiana, again, potentially seeing more of a greater threat for severe weather, but GFS not really showing that as well as some of the other models that we will look at in just a minute. But you do notice the line of thunderstorms will develop by Thursday evening and continue towards Friday to progress through much of the region and begin to dissipate by Friday midday across parts of Ohio, with maybe some additional convective development across portions of that region Friday evening, but really still not showing a good setup for severe weather out there on Friday. So that is what's currently projected by the models. Saturday afternoon, again, does show another more potential for some thunderstorms across extreme southern Ohio with widespread rainfall. One interesting thing to point out that the models are starting to hint at is, first of all, this squall line that's going to be right out ahead of the low that'll be moving through. That will have some pretty strong shear embedded inside of it, so it could be some wind-driven rain showers in there. Though that'll lift off to the northeast, and then you notice that you see some pockets of blue here on the backside of this rainfall that's wrapping around the low pressure system, and you begin to see that it starts to turn into widespread heavy snow as we transition through the models. Now, this is as we get into nightfall on Saturday night into Sunday. If this model holds together, we could be looking at some snowfall for parts of eastern Michigan. But again, that might be something to just pay attention to for a little bit later. It could be widespread snowfall across parts of eastern Michigan in particular with this given setup here. But that's something that's could change with the models later on, so don't want to draw too many conclusions on that just yet. So that's what's currently being shown. We're not going to go into the long range just yet, but GFS kind of projects that right there. All right, next up, looking at the temperatures over the next several days, you do notice the temperature trend temperatures begin to rise on Wednesday. You notice most places will get into the 60s and 70s south of Grand Rapids, so definitely going to see some nice weather there. And then farther to the north, you have your temperatures still in the 40s. Your warm frontal boundary is kind of sitting right in this region here, where the warm air mass is kind of still trying to fight its way farther to the north. By the time we get to Thursday afternoon, you notice temperatures warm up even further. Temperatures even getting close to 80 across parts of Ohio and Indiana and southern Michigan, around 70 degrees. You can see that well-defined cold front coming in ahead of that or behind that warm air mass. Before things begin to cool down by the overnight hours, we start to see temperatures that drop down into the 60s on Friday, and then that cold front really surges in and then brings our temperatures down into the 40s and then back down towards freezing, which could lead to some snowfall across this region over the course of Saturday into Saturday evening. So that's the thing to watch here. Temperatures will be bouncing around. It's going to be kind of a trampoline bounce with temperatures over the next couple of days. So just keep that in mind as we continue forward. RFS, again, this is a prototype model. So this is something we just look at that might be helpful in the future. So it's something that provides information in a rough stance. Okay, so let's look at some of the soundings for the RRFS model. It's just showing this, kind of showing what the new models are kind of projecting for this setup. You can see that they do show possible hazard type of severe. Now again, keep in mind that this model is a prototype and is still being updated, but this is for Thursday at 7 p.m. according to the RFS. Let's get to a more trustworthy model and get a look at what this is projecting for 7 p.m. You do notice that it's still projecting a convective line of storms and still showing that directional and speed shear in parts of the different layers of the atmosphere. Temperatures at about 68 degrees, a few high tops in the clouds, but still lack of instability to contribute to that stronger severe weather event that would be thought of with an event like this. But that lack of instability will likely keep things at bay across the Great Lakes region. Just western Indiana could see those severe thunderstorms with this event. That's pretty much all I wanted to show. It's a short video today, but it just provides some general information of what's coming over the next few days. Still going to be a bit of a wild week of weather with regards to changes in temperatures and the rain and possibly snow for eastern Michigan. So make sure to keep an eye out for that. Thank you all for watching. Make sure to subscribe and like the video. Help us to beat the algorithm. Thank you all for joining and supporting the storm chases. We'll be continuing to do those as is possible. So thanks for joining, and I will see you all later.